call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock, wow, right on time. And then roll call is Jamie and Katie are here, Barbara and Nicole are. No Susie yet, no Wanda. We discussed a little bit if we wanted to have Wanda be officially a liaison from the Friends or a member of the public. She's not here right now, so I guess we could maybe discuss this next meeting. Unless we want to talk about it.
Did we sit down and discuss it, or I just thought?
I think we said we were just going to announce her as the liaison.
I think rather than have the Friends be considered public,
right.
If they're considered as a part of the roll call, just like Susie's a liaison, we'll just have a spot for Friends liaison. That way,
Perfect.
They can participate in the meeting.
Right. I want to confirm that either with Wanda or I can take it to the Friends next time they have their meeting, and just mention that if anyone is coming, they would be the liaison from the Friends.
Correct. Because it could change.
Because it might be Wanda, it might be somebody different, it might be nobody. Like I don't know. I think Wanda was coming just that one time. Like I'm not sure.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not sure.
But there's a Friends meeting at the end of the month, the 28th.
Next week.
Yes. Okay. So I think I can make that one if Katie. I mean, she's not here, so I'll probably try to make that one.
That's fine. Tracy and I are usually there, so we can bring that up in any case. That's fine.
Cool. Great. Okay, so approval of the last month's minutes. Does anyone have any corrections? Do you want to look over that? No corrections. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, second.
Great. This is gonna be quick.
Yeah.
I love this.
Oh.
Alright. I don't see any members of the public here. We did want to talk about just a quick process reminder about the members of the public, that when the public's invited to be heard, it's during that section of our agenda, and not throughout the rest of the meeting and things like that. So we'll just keep that in mind if we have other public members coming in the future, and we'll state that when we kind of invite them to be.
And one thought might be not have them at the table, because then it makes it, it makes it easier for them to jump in and participate. And my thinking was, if we're not a little more formal about it, and you get somebody that comes in that's not happy with us, we don't want them talking to the meeting.
No.
We want to be consistent.
It's not the process, and I think that was probably the first time, maybe the second, at least since I've been here in 2.5 years, that we've had public come. So I think just lost a little track of that. It's a little tricky in this room. I mean, if we just got one or two people, obviously we can set them off to the side and then remind them that's your opportunity to speak. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay. But if it gets more, we'll figure that out when it comes. I agree. That way, you're not really at the table. Ideally, we'd be in a room like council where the public sits over there.
If we're at a point where the board is bigger, or we start getting a lot of members of the public, maybe we can move to the larger room, but I don't think.
Yeah.
Certainly don't need to right now. Yeah, for sure.
But it's a good reminder, and if we do have public, and the next time or going forward, and someone kind of attempts to chime in after public comment, either the chair or myself can remind them that opportunity passed. But thank you.
Yeah. I think it was just an odd meeting because we got to a little late and it was just disorganized.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of happened.
Yeah. And I frankly kind of didn't even think about it, probably for all those reasons. But later I was like, oh, they were supposed to speak. Luckily, they were library fans, right?
Yeah.
As you said, that could go in another direction. Anyway.
Yeah. Great. Alright, so moving on to new business. Our icebreaker.
Yeah. Okay. So what occurred to me is, what is your memory of the first library you went to, or your favorite library when you were? And I have one to talk about. So my first library was a fairly small library in Burnt Hills, New York, was maybe no bigger than just the children's room here. And even in junior high, I volunteered to be a page. Then they even paid me for a couple of times to show books. But my favorite library, because at that time, if you weren't a resident of that county, you couldn't get a card, in another county. But our school happened to be in Schenectady County. And so we were able to go to the Schenectady Library, which was a big city from our point of view. And it was this amazing building. I'm not sure if it was originally a private house or if it was built for the library, but it was, from like the early 1900s. This big, grand building.
Yeah.
And you'd go in and then there were like shelves here, and then you go up this little winding stair, and there were shelves above, and then this room had this kind of stuff, and that room. I mean, it was like this treasure trove. And my best friend and I would con our mothers into driving us once a month to go and take books out there, and we would come home with stacks of books, mostly nonfiction, because we were so interested in reading about everything, about Japanese culture, and, monasteries and travel and all this stuff. And I remember I even wrote an essay on it for English, and kind of wrote it like this short story, like there's this mode of traffic going around this castle of knowledge, and they had this gorgeous magnolia tree out front. I mean, it was huge. It was probably as old as the building. The pink saucer magnolias and bloomed in the spring. And when they moved and built a brand new library, they were going to see if they could move the tree, but it was too big. So they planted a new one at the new library.
Oh, really?
Because that was part of I mean, everybody knew about the library, but this gorgeous one.
Oh, that's nice.
So anyway, that's my fond memory of the library.
My two favorites, the first one was Bookmobile, which was our public library, because my mother didn't drive, and so we would walk up to the Bookmobile, and I just thought that was the most wonderful, heavenly place on earth. And then, that was kind of my introduction to it. But the other interesting library I saw this last fall was I went to London and saw the British Library, and that's just amazing because it used to be that all of the archives for this library were spread out all over the place, and I guess in maybe the 90s they pulled it all together, and they have this beautiful building, and they have the copy of Magna Carta and all these archives, and then they have the stacks, and it used to be really hard to get in there. And now they've made it so anybody can walk in with an ID and get a card so they can get into the stacks, which I thought was just so cool. And in the very middle, all surrounded by glass, is like King so-and-so's library. So you can't go over and you see it. You can see all his books stacked in there. So that's a cool library.
Yeah, I've been there, I saw that, the whole glass thing in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And it's right down the street from the train stations, and you could just take a flight, leap off the train, and run down into the library.
Yeah, I can talk about the first library I remember. I must have gone to another library before this, but I moved in 4th grade, so the Tyngsboro Public Library, which Tyngsboro had more cows than people in Massachusetts. And so I remember I read every fiction book in the children's section by a certain year of my life, and moved on to the adult section like pretty young, because there were just not that many books. It's less about, I mean, I read a lot, but it was less about that, and it was just a very small library. But it was still just like, I mean, we would go like probably once a week and just take home so many books, and it was it was not a great library, that's for sure, but it was a nice library.
Your library.
Yeah. So.
Well, my first, I grew up in Colorado Springs, so I don't, it's funny, it would have been like at the main library down there that my mom would have taken me to, but I don't like, I remember snippets. Maybe we didn't go that often, but what I really remember is more when I got into high school and they started opening branches and we'd go like with friends and stuff to study or whatever. It was like, you know, a sense of, it was really more about independence and getting a house.
Yeah.
I could have gone anywhere, you know, but it worked. Yeah. My favorite library is the Los Angeles Public Library, the main library downtown. It's if you've never been there, I don't know, you're shaking your head.
Well, I've read the
That's right. There's a lot of stories there, but it's an original. The front is the main part is an original Art Deco, which I like certain architecture, so it's really cool. But when they expanded that at various times, and it's gone through some fires, as you know, but they built it down rather than up, right? And part of that's because there's rules about how high you can build in LA, and now some of that's changed, but so it goes way down. It's really cool. You never get to do it. Yeah.
kind of did that at Berkeley. My son went to UC Berkeley.
Huh?
And the main library was closed stacks.
Yep.
You know, I was a faculty member at a community college in California, so I was allowed to go to the stacks, but everybody else. So when they built an undergraduate library, and because of the earthquake business, the main reading room kind of thing is on the ground level, and everything else is
It's
below
down.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I used to work there.
Did you really?
Yeah. Not at it was Moffat. I didn't work there. I worked in the business school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they all have,
everyone had
branch
a library.
libraries, yeah.
But mine was not interesting at all because it was a new building.
Yeah. I thought that was cool. Build it underground and worry about it falling over.
Yeah. Right.
Well, my first library was basically where I was born, Warren Public Library in Pennsylvania. I don't really remember a lot of it because it has changed a lot within the building itself, but my favorite part of that library when I was a kid and also just going back as an adult is their little friends area book sale, which they have like in the basement area, which it may not be conducive to some sales, but I always found that really cozy that it just had this like kind of atmospheric feel to it, and it just was like run by these families that are still there now, and so it just felt very homey to me, and I still kind of feel that way towards that library. But my favorite library, I'm biased, but it is Longmont Public Library. I've been to many libraries, just where I've lived, and I haven't necessarily gone like global, anywhere nationwide or beyond the nation, but yeah, Longmont will always have my heart.
As an adult, it's my favorite library of every place I've lived. Yeah, for sure.
Good.
I brought this up when we were chatting about this meeting. Basically, if we wanted to shift anything with the icebreaker, this was really quick and timely, but I know last week kind of like it went on for a while, so I was kind of wondering if we wanted to kind of shift up to the process of the icebreaker, if anyone had any ideas. We can talk about this when like Jamie comes back as well, because I think the icebreaker was Jamie's idea. I think it's nice to get to know everyone a little bit more. But if we can either we can just try to like keep it snappy, but or if anyone has any other ideas, maybe we can bring it up next month a little bit just to like see if there's other things we can do that be a little bit quicker about it. But I think it's fine, as long as we're good. All right, 3D printers.
Okay.
You didn't bring any dragons this time?
No, I did bring something though. So I added this to the agenda because I could not remember if I had even spoken about this, but we, through the friends, of course, we made a request to get 3D printers, and in fact, just today they finally set the one up. We have two. One's for staff to make things either for programs, or something, and then one for the public to use. And so that's up there now. It looks like this, basically. And we've developed a policy around it, which isn't much. It's just more to keep it fair use and not any one person monopolizes it. So time limits and what you can make.
So what can you make?
Name it.
It's just.
Yeah.
So is it plastics that?
It mostly.
Yeah.
So one of my staff just made me this. It's like a filament. It's like plastic. He reproduced the Friends of the Library logo on that for me, but I think they have it also like on a little keychain, so like the friends could sell it, right? That's kind of one thought. Some staff have made some, as we've been playing with it, people made personal things like pen holders or a business card holder, but I mean, pretty much you could name it, and then of course there's a lot of fun stuff you can make. But there's a whole software application that you can either look for, images that exist if you have an idea of what you want, and then it's already there, and then you just upload it to the program that makes it. So, but I couldn't remember if I had mentioned that, and I thought it'd be good to know that we have this. And
Are we charging anything?
Nope, not right now.
So you have to, so the library has to buy the supplies.
Yes, well, in the initial request, and here's the policy and guidelines, not that you want to sit there and read it, but in the initial request of the Friends, besides the device itself, we got a lot of filament to make things in a million different colors, and enough to last a long while. It's hard to predict that a little bit, but the filament itself is pretty cheap, and so we can absorb that.
Okay.
If we find ourselves in a position where we just blew through it and we got to get a whole bunch and it has a cost that we can't absorb, then we might go back and request it. But for now, that'll be fine for us to do. And then, and we're not charging, at least for now. Who knows? That could change. But we're keeping it like the times when you can use it. It's specific in the day, so that we don't have someone making a project at like 7 at night that's not going to end until 9. So everyone has to be conscientious of that, and we're limiting individuals to a certain number of, I think, hours. I can't remember what we said. It's a total in a year.
5 hours a week.
5 hours a week on average, basically. So it's a little bit experimental. No, it's very quiet, and this you can kind of tell. Like, not all 3D printers. One of the reasons we got this one, is because it comes in its own case, right? So the mechanisms in here, which helps noise, it also makes it so no one can access it. Otherwise, we would have to create something and have it in its own enclosure, basically. So, and we'll do classes around it. We already do tech classes, things like that, so that people can learn. There'll be some type of agreement people have to sign when they use it, as far as we're not responsible for, all the disclaimers you have to have, basically, these days. So, but it's pretty exciting. We'll see. I don't know if it's already available. I know it's sitting up there. But people can book it through the same system that we use for our room bookings and our library of things. So it's sort of handled like that. So someone can book a specific time. And that system helps us also control who's booking it. In the sense that if we see something that's too much, we can tell them you can't have it.
And then the staff that man that room, train
They all
them.
know.
They all know
They
how
all
to
know
do
how
it.
to use it, yeah. And any other staff will get trained, who want to. Yeah. So just thought I would mention that. That's pretty exciting. You can do a lot of different things here now. Okay, and then the other, well, that's all I have on that. Sorry.
John, just real
Oh,
quick,
yeah.
Susie might be joining virtually, she
Oh.
just emailed me.
Oh, thank you. Pay attention to the road, will you?
I'm trying.
Okay. So, yeah, that's all my update on
Alright. Did you say that there was gonna be a policy on?
that. There is, it's, I don't know if it's on the website yet. Is it?
I'm not sure it's been posted.
It'll be on the website under policies, at some point, but it's fairly straightforward. I didn't really bring that here, it's just more about usage, and more of it's about really guideline.
And no weapons, that's all.
Yeah, no
Unless
weapons,
one of the
yeah, 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 so there's certain things we don't want people making, obviously. And it's basically kind of at our discretion, so.
Alright, so the library advisory board applicant interviews, so we have, so Jamie's position, her spot on the board, is up for, quick question, what is the time, the typical timeline is it June, what is the year? I feel like a lot of us inherited a role on the board, what is the actual position timeline, is it just June? Term, thank you.
Yes.
I was like, I don't know, there's probably other news. The term is June, is that when it starts? Typically?
I don't know, because they do the process twice a year. So I don't know if
There must be
either,
one standard term and one half-year term,
I think it's
Or
just
is it-
based off, well, I don't know, actually,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it's, yeah. But Jamie,
So I do know, John,
yeah, go ahead.
I do know that we are gonna be hearing interviews on the 7th. And
Right.
typically, it's the first council meeting after the city council hears the applicants. So it would be, what is that, so 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th? So
July.
around June 10th, I believe we're supposed to make it official. So then the following, so sometime in June, it would be the third week in June that you would see the new board members.
And
And
is
then the other one is in December.
okay, Susie, do you know what a typical term is on these boards? Is it June to May?
So no, they're usually like 2 years, some of them are 2-year terms, some of them are 3-year terms, if you're looking for the
Right.
actual length that a board member is on. But there are 2 times during the year where you could be seeing new board members, which would be June and December.
Okay.
So I don't think there is what's considered the standard term.
Oh, okay.
It's just
Yeah.
based off vacancy or filling vacancy, and then when you start, it's a 2-year term. I think for library it's 2-year term.
Yeah.
And then you can renew it, or you can reapply 2 times. I
Okay.
think that's what it is.
Okay. So when, and I believe it was, I don't know if it was both of you, Barbara and Charlene, if you inherited another term,
I think we both did.
do you know when it's like basically June or something when it expires, I believe, so I wonder if, anyway.
Tracy has it.
You
I mean-
told us last time.
Yeah.
I do know that this board at least is 2 3-year terms, so you can serve 2 consecutive terms, but they're 3 years.
3 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's if you start from
The beginning of
an actual vacancy, because,
Right.
so I think,
I thought you told us summer of 2006.
yeah, because that's, you started in summer, so it'll end in summer.
2026.
So I think, okay, anyway. So Jamie's term, her first term is up, and did she do a 3-year term? a full 3-year term, or was she also?
Yeah, she served her first.
This is
3 years.
okay, so she's served her first 3-year term, so that is a vacancy. However,
She's eligible for the
she's
second.
reapplying or whatever, so.
Right.
But we also have some other applicants. John and Tracy, you wanna do that away?
Yeah, we have 4 total, that includes Jamie. So we have 3 additional applicants. It's the way the process works, so even though Jamie's a current board member, she has to reapply if she wants to stay, which means it's open to anybody. So, and with the timing, and Susie hinted this, but because of the timing of this board meeting, and when we have to have the board's recommendation to the city clerk's office to keep that gets it to council, Tracy and I went ahead and scheduled the 4 interviews. They're Zoom, they don't take, well, you've done them, they don't take longer than a half an hour,
Yeah.
if that. And they're all tomorrow.
Okay.
And so we, if possible, it's not required, but if, you know, and in this case is a little unusual because Jamie's there, you know, so you know, with the 3 people that are applying that are not Jamie, we'll probably indicate that we have an incumbent applicant, but, you know, so Tracy and I can certainly handle it, but if anyone wants to join, I realize it's tomorrow, but we have to do it so that we can get it.
What time tomorrow?
One is at 8,
There's-
okay.
There's 4 time slots. We have one from 8 to 9 a.m., the second from 11:30 a.m. to 12, and this is assuming that we take the full hour, probably won't, but 11:30 to 12:30, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. So probably about half an hour between each of those time frames, but those are 4 weeks.
I'm just gonna say I can't.
Okay.
I'm leaving on Friday. I have so much to do.
No, that's okay.
I can, I volunteer in Boulder usually from 9 to 11. But you said the first one was at
8.
First one's at 8, yeah.
8.
I would say it won't go to the 9.
Yeah,
If there's only like 3 questions.
okay.
And actually, I think, well, anyway, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can be there.
Yeah, it's likely it will only take about half an hour.
Okay.
I mean, what Tracy can do is add you to the invite, so it'll be on your calendar.
Okay. And then just click on it and.
Yeah.
Do we know if Jamie is interviewing the other candidates?
She's not.
doing that, okay. I know.
I mean, she's
Yeah,
available
I
anyway,
know,
so-
She offered.
That's what I thought, that's
And
what
then I just,
It doesn't make sense.
yeah,
okay.
not if she's also technically an applicant.
Yeah, I just, okay, cool.
Are you available?
I have not, no, those are all during my childcare hours, so, no. And then we reached out to Katie, or do we wanna bother?
I didn't,
My guess
we-
is she can. So-
yeah, I mean, if you think you can do them, we'll just leave it at that.
Would you, would it be awkward to just have one board member
No,
there, or
that's
would you
usually
prefer
right.
to have some? Okay. Because,
Are you
Oftentimes-
able to make all of them, or?
yeah,
Cause then that's great, cause then you,
be consistent.
Yeah. No, that's generally how it's been, it's, you know, in most cases, like, it would be the chair, or at least that's what we've done, so it would be Jamie and usually myself, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it kind of, I usually leave a little bit after 8:30 to go to Boulder, and then I'll be done at Boulder 11, so that ought to work out, actually, oddly.
Okay, we
Oddly
appreciate it.
specific.
thank you, it's a lot on one day, so.
I mean, the only reason we didn't announce it before is, I think, just given the circumstances, Tracy and I just figured we could do them.
Yeah.
And,
And do you then give a recommendation to the council?
well, the board does,
The board, yeah.
I guess, technically, right, Tracy? Yeah.
Yes.
But it usually comes like via Tracy, I think they'll usually send it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's easy enough to generate that, you know.
So that'll be, Barbara, you'll be giving the recommendation
On
on behalf of the board. And then do we know, I mean, if we're all up in 2 or 3 years or whatever, do we know, is Katie probably the next term that's finishing before that?
No, so let's see, the term end for Katie, Charlene, and Barbara is all June 30th of 2026, so next June. Nicole, you are the only one that is extended beyond that year, is the next year, 2027.
2027.
But yes.
Okay, so Barbara, Charlene, and Katie
Yes,
are
are all the same end date.
And that might be something good to tell the applicants, that, you know, if you don't make it this one, there's gonna be more
Oh, for sure,
vacancies
for sure.
into next June,
Yeah.
you know, because that could be discouraging when you get your nerve up to apply.
And this is Katie's first term as well.
I think so. I think it is.
So everyone would be eligible for another term after that. But yeah, for next June, we might want to we're definitely going to have to interview. So we might want to make sure we're scheduling. Like I will definitely be interviewing people.
Yeah.
So please
And ideally,
please let's
people want to stay
coordinate.
on the board. I mean,
Yeah,
it-
yeah.
Right, but still,
Right,
and
so,
still
yeah.
I'll have to. I mean,
Three
you guys,
of us.
the three of you will not be able to. So
Exactly.
maybe it'll be
Or reapply.
Jamie or whoever.
Yeah.
Barbara recommends. But anyway, but I think we might want to be ahead of that by a month or so
Yeah.
to figure out the schedule.
For
so,
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. I think it's always the case when we have the like open vacancies that it's like right after our meeting. Because of
right.
when our meeting falls in the month, so it's
Yeah.
hard to like kind of account for that, but if we kind of know that moving forward, you know, in summer next year, it's something to just keep in mind.
Yeah, let's coordinate
You're
that.
gonna send me four emails for
I will.
4 different Zoom meetings.
Correct.
Yes.
It's too bad it's gonna be 3 people at one time. It'd be nice if the terms could be staggered better,
I know.
Yeah.
so that we don't have 3 all at once. But then somebody would have to have less than a 3-year term, I guess.
Yeah, and somebody did fill in for a member that resigned early, so that that
Yeah, kind of screws things up.
yeah.
Right. Anything else for new business? Otherwise, we can do an old business fiscal year 26 budget updates.
Yeah, just to probably be on here until budgeting's over, just to keep everyone up to date on what's going on. So I've been working on that still. A little bit of, well, I don't remember what I talked about last month, but the way the budgeting works here, there's 3 types of requests. Did I talk about
Yeah,
that?
Yes.
yeah, it was in the minutes.
Okay. Oh, good. I thought I should have read the minutes.
I read the minutes again, just to remind us.
Okay. So, the majority of what we'll have are what they call the level 2, right, which are things that we've been to enhance service. So we have so far a mix of some staffing, increase to collections, of course, and then programming, which we don't have a budget for technically at all. So those are like the main things that will be in there that have been in there years past. We just never got them funded. I'm adding some level 1 requests this year after taking a closer look at, and those are the level 1, right, is the costs we can't control. So we've always had things in there like database agreements. They always go up a percentage. Our Marmot library network, our consortium membership goes up every year. Things like that I can pretty much count on. New this year will be a separate request for collections. So for both children and adult books and children and adult e-content. After doing some investigation and kind of getting some numbers, the physical collection, it seems to have gone up. It kind of goes up every year about 2 to 3%. And I haven't asked for that in years past. I just put it all in the level 2. So I separated that out, and I'll be adding that as a level 1. Basically, just So I'm just doing the 3% on top of whatever the budget is. So hopefully we at least get that amount, which helps cover at least. Otherwise, if we don't, right, we're then, the
Basically,
budget
it's cut.
stays, we're buying less. So
Yeah.
the e-content was astonishing. That I'm surprised I hadn't really looked into this before. But ebooks, so since 2022, the average cost of an ebook has gone from 30 and change to 50 some dollars in just 3 years. And then e-audio is not much different. Basically, after I got all these numbers and calculated it, and since both of those e-audio and ebooks and e-magazines for that matter, they're all grouped in the same budget line. So I just averaged it out, and that increase in that 3 years is almost a 70% increase, just for the cost of buying it. And on top of that, our main vendor, Overdrive, or Libby, everyone knows it as Libby, the company's Overdrive. They knew now, like this year, they're imposing a credit card surcharge on every single purchase. And so I'm building that in because the city seems to have a preference of purchases going on through our purchasing cards, and which makes sense because it's just much more streamlined. So I'm building in that cost, assuming that the city would still prefer we use our P cards. But right now, currently, that fee exists, and so for the remainder of the year, we will not be using P cards for that. We're going to go through the old school purchase order method, which Tracy set up, to make that actually pretty easy, or easier. That's what I'm doing there. So you have that like 73% if you don't the credit card. It's a lot. The other thing too, which helps more support the level 2 version of that of why we need more, is the e-content usage. Ebooks, this is over the last 10 years. I got some numbers from my librarian who manages all the platform. In 10 years, the usage for ebooks has increased over 300%. I know it kind of blew me away, and I'm like, well, actually, that might make sense. And then e-audio has increased over 500%. So that's just massive. Which just shows we need more. And I'm sure. I have to look back. I'm sure in 2020 that took a huge spike.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then it's just never come down.
Yeah.
So how are you asking for more in the like tier 1?
For that.
Based on those numbers. So like naively what I would do is take whatever you requested, whatever it was 5 years ago or whatever, 2020 when you said that first number, and ask for at least 70% more of that in your budget for ebooks. Is that what are you doing?
Kind of.
Okay.
I calculated that way, and then it's a little less because the assistant city manager that we currently have, who's interim because they're recruiting for that, he's asking me to go about it a little bit differently. Like this year we want this much, the next year we'll want this much, to get us to where we need to be, so we're not trying to do it all at once. So I reduced it a little bit.
Okay.
At the moment, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not true for everything. I mean, that's just the e-content was one thing. The other one is it's a different line item, but it basically handles. I think it's just called database. No. Anyway, it pays for subscription databases, but also any other products we have that are not e-content, which we don't have much of. We have like a language learning platform. We have, a few other things. Obviously, we'd like to grow this because we don't offer any streaming film platforms. There's just a lot of stuff out there. And that was one of the ones where, I was calculating based off a lot of doing some comparisons with other libraries in Colorado of a similar size and what they're spending on that kind of stuff compared to us. And of course, we spend at the lowest. So I'm trying to get us to where we should at least be serving a community of this size, which is how I came up with the number, and then, kind of like dividing that in a way by 3. So the first year would be this, and then this, and then this. So that's a slight change from how I requested it in years past, which is I've just been going by the number of where I think we should be. So just give it all to me now.
Well, so level 2 was always like increases for collections. Does that mean like you used to have, I don't know, I'm gonna make a crazy number here, I don't know if it's high or low actually, $100,000 a year for new collections, and then that would just stay like every year we get $100,000, or
No.
is it that you wouldn't get any new collections budget? Like how did that work?
Oh, I see. No, we just stayed.
It stayed at the same number
I
that you had.
requested more, but I never got more, nor was it cut.
You requested an increase to your budget.
Uh-huh.
You would get a budget every year and you would stick to that budget.
Yep.
Okay, I see. Alright. And you hadn't gotten an increase to that budget for the last 2 years.
But yeah, or longer. But at least that's by reference. It's just
You've asked for it the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
And then the other one is a one-time request, and we'll have a few of those this year. One is we have a couple of self-checks in the children's area that are way old and outdated. Our PA system breaks all the time. That's and that one's pretty important because that can also be used for emergency services. So sometimes, like, if we really had that, we can't always get in there and talk because it won't work. It's just very old. But they're pricey systems to in a building like this to have that. It's because you have to get some updated network stuff done, and you get different contractors. Anyway, we are going to request up in the upstairs, way in the back corner of the north corner, which was in the automotive section. It's where the quiet area is.
Yeah.
It's in the corner there, and if you back there, or if you go back there, you'll see the automotive is pretty much empty now. We weeded some and we integrated the rest of it into the regular nonfiction to hopefully at some point have a space there. What we want to do, and this fits nicely within the strategic plan, is to build a literacy corner. And not like a construction project where we build walls and have it, but much like the computer lab up there, if you've ever noticed, it's just those glass panels, and they don't quite go to the ceiling, which saves you a ton of money because you don't have to have HVAC stuff done and all that.
Yeah.
And they block out no sound. So we looked into that and got some quotes, so we'll ask for that. I don't know, I don't have a sense of what, if anything is going through, but we're putting those through. Some more shelving will be in there. So I'll keep you guys up to it.
When we were talking about the hunka money you got for the kiosks,
Oh yeah.
and you had mentioned that only covers like the cost of actually doing it, and then there's like upkeep, I guess, or servicing.
For the whole pickup lockers?
Yeah, is that in there too?
No, it'll be in the next year because the first year, which would be now, whenever that happens, that first year comes with a year of maintenance. So it would be the next year that I need to request that. And I will request that as a level 1 because we have to have a maintenance agreement. Yeah.
Is that definitely happening?
Yeah, so where that is at in the process is I wrote up a form that our purchasing department has in order to create a bid. And it's in their hands now. I'm waiting to hear back, but they'll put it into a national bidding system. So then we'll see. I mean, I kind of have a vendor that I would like. A lot of the requirements that they have that I like, I'm not sure others have, so that might make that easier. But because of the cost of it, it has to go through a quote system. So more on that when I hear where that's at. I feel like once that happens, at least the vendor, who's also the same one as our automated sorter, they're pretty quick turnaround on that stuff before you know it. So we'll see. So that's, I think that's just the smallish update.
Just one more question about the juice, because
Yes,
I know, well, I know it's still up in the air about, some of the funding that the state library was gonna get. And
Yeah,
that
correct.
covered some things we have, like courier services and stuff like that, or we just kind of waiting to see what happens with that?
As it stands, through the next fiscal year, the state library is fully funded.
Yeah,
And the courier is separate from that. So that really shouldn't have an impact. Initially, I thought it might, just indirectly. But that's a state library funded process. It has nothing to do with federal. So, which is good, because that would be a real small disaster if we couldn't. I say that tongue in cheek, because that would be huge if we didn't have a courier. Yeah, so with all that stuff, I think none of that has informed any budgeting that I'm doing right
because
now.
it's all down the road.
Yeah.
That-
So I'll be finishing getting into the old archaic budgeting system. It's horrible. And then I shouldn't say that publicly, but everyone agrees. Well, it's just.
But this is the city's budgeting system?
Yeah. It's just I don't know. There's just really some quirks about it, and it's just because it's a little bit weird. But we will eventually circle back with the assistant city manager to review what's in there, and then he has to take. The other part I do is. It's funny. Did it sound like I was? The other part of my process is I have to have my own ranking of priority. So what do I think is, whatever, and then what he has to do is he takes my ranking, recreation, museum, all together. He has to provide a global ranking, which means some of the stuff I have could be up here, some could be here and here. Like my number one item could be way down here. So, who knows? The other piece, which is it's kind of a budget request, it's not really a part of the budget process per se, but it impacts budget. This library in 2023 was the first year we stopped imposing overdue fines. And we want to take this a step further, which a lot of libraries have been doing, which is also not imposing replacement costs at all on children's materials only. And the same logic and theory goes behind it. You're trying to promote literacy, but then the people who need your services the most can't pay the fines, and so they either keep all the books so we lose more money, or they stop using the library, or both. So that'll be something I bring up during that presentation with the city manager. Honestly, we don't. I think the last year maybe we brought in 6,000 to 8,000 in replacement costs. But if you look at what we lost, that wasn't ever paid for, like what was owed but never paid, it was like 15 grand or more. Plus the staff time of processing all that, it just doesn't make any sense. And it would only be on children's materials, but yeah.
When is a fine imposed? If
There's not
There's
ever.
fines.
so, so when is it replacement?
Yeah, so let me distinguish. So, because some people interchangeably use fines and fees,
Okay.
I don't, to keep it straight in my head. So fines are only related to overdues. So it's basically you're penalized for being late.
Okay.
Fees we have are for something that at a certain period of time, which our library system defines. So the checkout period's the same, the overdue period's the same, it's just that there's no fines that get imposed. But when it gets to a certain point where the system considers it lost and billed, that bill goes on the patron account. Those we still collect. Or we will take a replacement, typically. But
Okay, 60 days after
Yeah.
it's due.
yeah.
Okay.
And it goes through a whole process. We do still use a pseudo collection agency. It's not the real collection agency. But it makes people feel threatened, which is the other reason I want to take this off of children's materials.
Yeah.
And because sometimes it's the children get their own card, and so that collection notice is mailed to a child.
Yeah.
We do get cost and materials recovery from that collection agency. They can't do anything legally. That was a lawsuit years ago. That it can't be reported to someone's credit report, things like that. It just kind of sits there like nothing will really ever happen. But it makes people feel like someone's after them.
Yeah.
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 So, I still debate whether I still want to have that at all. But the thing is I had my CERC manager get some reports back from the company and did a whole bunch of stuff, and people get these letters. We were able to track, I think, whether they paid or we got the materials back, and the return on investment in that for what we paid for the service is huge. We actually get a lot of stuff back.
Yeah, I think there has to be some limit because otherwise people will just take stuff and they'll lose it all.
I just it's
But
like
the children's thing,
it's like
I
the
like.
stigma thing though, which and I just
I think it's pretty generous actually.
it is, but you have to kind of know. If you don't know, and else, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's not going to change except for the children's part.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I like the children's part
Yeah.
because my granddaughter theoretically lost a book from her school library. She says she returned it, but she didn't necessarily put it in the book drop. She may have just put it on the shelf, so it's lost in the collection. But my daughter had to pay for it because, so stuff like that happens with kids.
well, that's just it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it'll be, I have all the research and data, like I was just sharing.
To back
The philosophy of why you would do it, and then as well as, because what the city manager's going to care about is, it's not that we're a revenue generating department, but it's still funds that are collected that, first of all, we never see. It goes into the general fund anyway. It's not like when someone actually does lose a book, or if they damage it so bad we can't repair it. And if they pay us for it, we don't actually get that money to repurchase the book.
Well, that kind of sucks.
It's the way it's set up.
Yeah.
So which is why I always want materials recovered. I don't care about the money.
Yeah.
And if someone does that and they offer to replace the item,
Yeah.
more often than not, we'll take it because that's a real value.
So that's an interesting, because I was just looking at the policy online, and it was as soon as they pay the fee, that item is now the borrower's, right? And so even if they find the item, they there's no reason to bring it back to the library. They're not going to get refunded or anything.
Right.
And so that actually defeats the purpose of what you're talking about in
Right.
terms of you
Just get
wish.
the stuff back.
Yeah, and if you got the stuff back,
Yeah.
maybe, I imagine with the system that you have it set up with the collections agency or whatever, that they're not gonna issue a refund no matter
Nope.
what, so.
No,
So it's not like you could
has
work
to
that
circulate.
out, but it'd be nice if there would be a way that you could recover the materials even after they paid a fee or something.
Yep.
They get a prize. They get a 3D printed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So then if people do bring in substitute material for that, then you have to process it though.
We do.
Do you process it in-house?
Yeah, we do.
Your new stuff comes processed, right?
Most of it.
Most of it.
No, actually, not even. I would say half of the
Oh,
collection.
okay.
The other half we're still doing.
Oh, okay, so
That's
you do
more,
have a
and
process.
that's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
more of the vendors, the main vendor we work with, and some issues we've had with that, what we call pre-processing,
Yeah,
has been problematic.
Okay.
So we've been a little hesitant to go full it makes sense theoretically, because then your stuff comes shelf ready, and it's like,
Yeah,
boom,
it's
it's on the
easy.
shelf, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but, so yeah, if people bring in a replacement, we have to,
At least you have a way of
yeah,
processing it.
but it's still worth it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll keep talking about this every month, but, you know, happy to entertain the question beyond what you've already asked.
And what is the next milestone for the budget? When is it due in some capacity?
Not for, well, actually, I think the end of the month.
End of this month is your
Yeah.
first.
I have to have it
draft or
into
something?
the system,
Okay.
which I've been doing, and then I think it will be in my boss's hands and the assistant city manager to review, and then they can kick stuff back.
Can you add anything after that point? Okay, so end of the month for
Yep,
drafts.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else on the budget?
Not for me.
Do you have anything for the library director's report?
Of course. So, let's see. Mostly about, well, a couple things. We have planned, we used to, the first 2 years I was here, we did this in the spring, where we closed the library for an in-service training day. So we've settled on that to be in August. This year, mostly because I really just wrap my brain around planning it like I did in the years past, but and it'll be when summer reading ends, which is good, but you know, so the timing works, and most people are, if they're gonna do vacations, are back because school seems to start earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'll be August 15th, and basically the overall plan for that day. In years past, we've done it almost like a one-day conference, and we have one session after another, and bring in guest speakers. It gets to be a lot, and because of the strategic plan, I'm devoting almost half the day to group work on kind of talking about the plan, and you know, as you know, the plan's high level, and individual departments have already been working on their own kind of goals for it, and so on staff day, I want to get people in groups from different departments from within the library and talk through what that looks like on the day-to-day, and kind of getting toward that outcomes, and you know, really thinking outside of your own. It's like, you know, if Children's has a goal of increasing story time attendance, and you normally work at the circulation desk, what role do you think you could still have? Right, and not be like, that's their problem. It's like, no, it's a library problem, not a problem, but you know, we'll be doing that. And the other thing I am bringing in one outside trainer. It's the Colorado Immigration Rights Coalition to do a training. Oh, I realize my email's still on. Sorry. You should turn that off so that doesn't happen. They do a training called Know Your Rights. Maybe you've heard of this. Which is, you know, I feel like it's very important. I was able to go to one of them that the city's equity department planned, and they invited a few people. And this is really good. It's something I never thought I would have to think about, which means I think a lot of people think that. And as in a public space, I think we need to be really informed. For ourselves, for the public that may ask questions, you know, not to be experts on immigration rights, but at least we can help guide people towards information, what it means. At its worst, I want staff trained on that because, God forbid, you know, ICE agents come in here looking for somebody, you know, I want staff to know what they can. Yeah. So, and it works well. I can get all staff this way and not have to do it separately. It's like a 2-hour training. So I'm excited about that.
And it really fits in with your strategic plan.
Oh, it
too,
does.
you know,
It does.
to make libraries accessible.
I just think, yeah, I mean, I was just kind of blown away with what I didn't know. Although why would I? I just, you know, like I said, I've never had to ever think about
Yeah.
what abilities ICE agents have in certain situations, and it's actually pretty restrictive. But I think so many people don't know. Anyway, so that'll be our more or less what our staff day will be in August, and let's see. And then a couple of programming things I wanted to let you all know about. So one is our summer reading kickoff pool party
I saw it
is
got
canceled
Bummer.
because there's a crack in the pool. So that's unfortunate, obviously. But summer reading, we're not going to try and create something now in a week's time. So no party.
Because you're maybe in the know, do they have an estimate of when that is that like a
I have
is
no
that
idea.
like a days to weeks? Is that like a month?
I have no. I don't
You
know.
don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know. You
So
know, when
earlier
it
summer.
when the news came out, I was out of town last Thursday, Friday, well through the weekend, but that came out I think Thursday or Friday. And my boss is out of town. That's probably who I would ask. So I'll try to get
Send me an email.
Yeah.
I got swim lessons to go to.
So what they are going to do, if you didn't notice, is Centennial Pool, which is of course the indoor pool, who would normally not be open that weekend, they're open. I'm not saying it's the same thing.
I don't want to go.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's too bad. On the event side, on last Thursday, I don't know if anyone went. We did a film event in the city council
I
chamber.
wanted to.
You wanted to. I wanted to too. That was anyway. It's a film. It's a film that you can watch for free because it's a PBS film called Free for All.
Yeah.
And it's all about. I haven't watched it yet, by the way, but apparently it was a huge success and very emotional. You know, a lot of celebration of public libraries.
It
It's-
had like
it's-
such good reviews.
It has excellent reviews, so you know when you find yourself 90 minutes or whatever.
But it's available online.
Yeah.
It's available on their website on PBS.
Have you watched it, Tracy? By any chance?
Yeah.
I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm meaning to, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. But I just wanted to throw that out there. It was hugely impactful.
Yeah.
Something you might want to watch. And then finally on the programming side, our podcast we've been doing for years called Book Chatter. That's changing up a little bit this year, where we are allowing the public to participate. Who come share something you've read, and that if anyone here is inclined, but it's on the website. You can kind of go look it up and see what that entails. I'm hoping that people do that. I think that's a great idea. That the staff member, it's kind of been rotating who's sort of in charge of that program, and so the staff member who took it on this year had the idea to do that. So that's my library director report.
Any
Unless
other
there's any
questions?
questions.
Great. The Friends of Library report. There was not a Friends meeting this past month because there was an annual meeting, which most of us here were at actually. They made
Are you a bouquet?
yes. There was a
Different
lot
than
of.
I was thinking. I'm not.
You were lumped in with everybody else who was leaving. That was sweet of them. They made Barbara and I stand up. It's excruciating.
Oh,
They made John do a whole long report. So I just have their like email to read a few highlights. It's basically the Friends funded $73.3 thousand in 2024, and 83% of the revenue went to library programming, with the other 17% for operating expenses. So there wasn't that much like newer things about that. It was for I have not been down to the dungeon as they referred to it, but I wanted to at some point. So and that was basically it. I will go to the meeting again next week. unless anybody else wants to go. Happy to. Okay.
I'm sitting through 4 interviews.
Yeah, no. You've done your duty for the month, so.
So,
No, that's fine. Oh yeah. Oh, you're going to your
Scotland.
Scotland trip. Okay.
yeah, on Friday,
That's right.
And you'll be gone for
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Two
Okay.
weeks.
Great.
Yeah, so I'll be back in time.
Why don't you go to the Trinity Library and report back to us? Trinity University does have a fantastic library.
Oh, that's it. I'm going to Scotland.
Go to Scotland. They don't have books in Scotland.
Yeah. No, I am gonna try and go to this bookstore that I read about that's in Inverness, because we're going to Inverness.
Oh, okay.
So,
Cool.
We're back with
yeah,
You can do best bookstore.
yeah. Best bookstore, there we go. That's a nice picture.
Libraries in the news.
I have a report on the 2 lawsuits, if you want to hear about them.
Yeah.
So there's 2 lawsuits. One, this was in regard to the Institution of Library, Museums and Sciences, that there's the executive order. So the State's Attorney General brought 1 lawsuit in Rhode Island, and they just got an injunction. That was based on the fact that they said, you have to follow the administrative rulemaking process, and if you're gonna start knocking things out, you gotta go through the process, so the whole order is unconstitutional. And then the other one was brought by American Library Association and the Federal Union, Employees Union that works for the institution. And that was brought to DC, and they also got an injunction, and that was to stop them from pulling the budget, firing the head, and letting go of the staff. And so that's all been put on hold. And so now everybody just sits around and waits till the actual hearing comes forward. But it was interesting that basically in both of the cases, the state had no defense for why they were doing it, just we're doing it. So that's really good news in my opinion, because there just aren't any grounds to do it. And it seems like most of the ones that have gone up to the courts where they've just said, well, we think this, the court said, you gotta come up with some kind of reason. So what I think will happen probably someday is all of these kind of similar suits are all gonna get lumped together, they're all gonna come up and they're gonna either say, yeah, you have to follow the APA and what Congress said, or, so it's a free-for-all. It was good news, along with bad news of them firing,
The Library of
Library
Congress.
of Congress.
That she's like a library hero.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
Yeah.
she's phenomenal.
Well, I did read that they didn't let the people that were trying to come in to take things over, they didn't let them in. They got the Capitol Marshals to keep them out. So at least somebody's, librarians are standing up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that was good news.
yeah.
It's the end of my report.
Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, there's a lot to keep up on for sure. More, I don't think I have anything. I was trying to think if there was any more on a state or local level, but nothing that came on my radar. I guess I should say.
Alright, comments from the board? Anyone have anything else that they wanna touch on?
Or Susie,
Or
if you
Susie,
do.
yeah, if you wanna. This was just, only just cause you, Susie, do you wanna say something?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I don't have much, we're just doing our regular council business. I believe we're gonna be looking at aligning our ADU policy with the our recent state legislation changes, which would allow for, accessory dwelling units to occur in HOA. Typically what was limited in HOAs, they couldn't have ADUs. Now through state law you can, so we're making adjustments to our ordinances. I believe putting restrictions on housing for sexual offenders, putting distance between schools and housing units, as well as limiting the number of people in one house. We'll be looking at that on Tuesday. So I think those are two big hot topics that I wanted to kind of get out, but if anybody had something to weigh in on or wanted to come on Tuesday, I'll be there.
Thank you.
Sure.
This was just because you mentioned increasing attendance at the library story times as like an example for something.
Yeah.
I went up to the Boulder main branch story time with my youngest, and compared to the story times here, it was like a quarter of the amount of attendance.
Really?
Like, it was much smaller. Most likely because they have so many branches that do different story times.
Oh,
so right,
yeah,
you're only going to like this is the whole city versus that they probably have story times in each branch.
For sure.
And it was really nice to be in a story time that wasn't as busy. So it was, I know, I'm sure it's hit or miss here. Sometimes it's like a little bit more, like less busy, and sometimes it's like, there's 15, 20 kids or something like that. So I'm just curious, like, I mean, this is mostly an observation, but I'm sure if there were more branches for the Longmont Library, there would be more story times and people would go to the one that's closest to them and things
For
like
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Is that something that, like, I know I see sometimes the librarians coming in and counting like how many. Is this something that you're talking about? Are you trying to increase story time, or are you trying to?
Not necessarily.
Was this just a random example?
No, that was just it's always an easy one to go
Right,
to. I could have said
right.
like where you want to increase the number of books you check out.
Sure,
here.
sure, okay.
So not necessarily. I mean, with I'm not worried about attendance at story times. Obviously.
You shouldn't be.
Yeah.
They are
No.
well attended.
It's kind of.
Okay,
I mean.
Oh my god.
The focus more, at least on that side of the world, as far as story times, as it relates to the strategic plan, is more about conveying the importance of it, the literacy component of it, and educating people out there of why it matters that you do it. That's more, and the people that come there. But anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, I mean that's like that's it, one of many examples of why we need to grow beyond these walls.
For sure.
Because there's people that, first of all, it's crowded for the people that come. There's people that don't come because they're not going to come down here if they don't live close, but I'm sure they would love and their kids could benefit from story time, right? So that's
It'd be great if there's one in the neighborhood that they can talk to.
for sure.
Yeah.
And if you could do it, I mean, it's 5-6 days a week now. If you could do it more throughout, the week at different places, so that you could potentially have more than one bilingual story time. And
Oh,
things
for
like
sure.
That, do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that would be huge for
Yeah,
the
and
community.
you would have probably the same story time, just at another location.
Right.
But it also might depend where it is, right? So like using the bilingual example, certain neighborhoods, that might be really the only story time that happens.
Which would be great for that.
You know what I mean?
neighborhood, Yeah.
Yeah,
And
just-
versus just having it only at one day a week here.
Right.
And if they can't make it, that means that there's no bilingual story time for them in this,
Right.
at the library,
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
yeah. Well, and the parking is a problem,
Seriously.
Yeah. Because sometimes I come to do my
Don't come
volunteer
here.
stuff and.
Don't come
Yeah,
here
if
Friday
it's
morning story time.
Yeah, if it's
because-
story time,
Friday night.
there's no place to park, Yeah.
But Stephanie's a treasure, so. All right, okay.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, please go ahead.
Is there anything the board can do in terms of, I know the answer to this is probably no, but to assist you in, making your assistant manager understand how important you think it is that you give you all the money?
I mean, generally, the way that would and can occur from the board perspective is to do it through council. Susie could be one of them, because then they talk to the city manager. That's kind of the route you want to go. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe this assistant city manager would let me schedule time with him, but it's usually we rely on council to
Right.
have those conversations, but that would be what I would say, yeah.
Well, just tell us if there's anything we could do. Or tell Jamie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, that can't hurt, and the timing would be now. Like, you know, trying to find time with whoever. It could be Susie, or it could be Joan Peck. You know, get some time with her and share that. It's like when you meet with Harold next time, you need to say these things, you know, whatever.
There's a meeting on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, or at a
Public-
council
public
meeting. That's
comment,
another
yeah.
option is
Yeah.
just at a council meeting, that way everyone hears the same message during public comment, and then plus anyone else is there, but, yeah, and you don't need my permission or anyone's to do that.
You can represent the board. Is that meeting's tomorrow, Susie?
Every
You think
Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, but okay. no.
Mostly every Tuesday.
Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
And then Susie, I had a question for you. I know the museum board had someone from the city come talk about how the budget works. Do you know who that was that came to talk?
It was Harold
It was
and
Harold.
Jeff Friesner. Yeah, Harold came in and Jeff Friesner. So that could be another option, is invite them to come to the meeting.
What did they do at that meeting?
So I think for their particular situation, the board wanted to have the fees that are, you know, so anything when they sell the ticket sales or things at the gift store, how it goes back to the city and then is kind of diverted back to the museum. So I think, you know, just for accounting purposes. So he came in to kind of speak to that piece. Members of the board had wanted that money to come directly to the museum, and Harold kind of spoke to the ins and outs of the documentation, how that process works, and you know how essentially that money does go back to the museum. However, you know, kind of works its way. It has to go through the budget for documentation piece, so they don't have two separate budgets. It actually goes into the big, and then it gets redistributed back. So he was kind of explaining the ins and outs. It was a lot of 101 budgeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, some folks asked specific questions to the museum. So it sounded like after he left, the board was very appreciative. It was to help, you know, kind of for some grounding and help people understand how that whole process works. And where he talked about the level 1, level 2, what that means, what that looks like in other departments as well.
Okay. I'll look into that.
Yeah, that'd be great if they could come, if one or both of them or whatever could come
Yeah.
to talk to us. That'd be
Yep.
That's actually interesting. I wonder, when you were talking earlier about the fees that the city gets into their general funds and you have to replace your own materials, are you documenting that to the budget as well? Like, is that something that the city is aware of, that you have
That's a
brought
really
in
good
that
question.
money
That's a really good question.
and are losing out in terms of your replacements of
I mean, we can report on maybe in part. I'm just thinking the way, like, if money's actually collected, and then whether we actually used that to repurchase something that was lost, there's probably a way to find that out.
Like, my guess is that for the most part, you might not track it that way.
No.
You might only replace that item if it's a very popular
Yeah,
item.
some items we won't replace.
Right, exactly.
We just was like, well, it's gone.
But if there is a way to work out with the city, like if you know that you're, you know, bringing in money, you're bringing income to the general budget through
Right.
this replacement program, maybe there should be a certain amount that's set aside each year that allows you to replace items that have been lost,
Right.
and then you can use that different from your collections.
Use it different, yeah. We've been having a similar conversation with the money we do collect for services such as printing and copying. That the public pays, because it's the same setup.
That goes
They
to
pay it,
general.
and we don't see it.
Yeah, okay. So
There's accounting for it though. But there is a way to do it, and there is a way, probably in the same way with this, through it would be an appropriation request. So we would say, like, we've collected this much money, and then we would do an appropriation to appropriate that from the general fund into whatever account we say. So that would be, so I say it's gone, there is a way to do it.
That's not something that you're currently doing. It seems like something that, unless it's not gonna make enough money to weigh the reporting on it, and like,
People's time.
right, the amount of trying to get that reporting, like,
Yeah.
maybe it's
Yeah,
not worth it, but-
with the collections, my sense is that would be much more complicated.
right.
With the printing, I think that's something we are gonna do, once we figured out how and what we needed to do. But that's extremely straightforward.
Yeah, okay.
We know what people are paying, it's,
Yeah,
in this
you just
case,
have
it's
to
like people
replace.
pay, did we replace it or not, or not, I guess we don't have to worry about that, it
Well-
could just be more, we collected this, so we should appropriate it back.
Well, and that's what I would, I guess you'd have to go to the whatever the collection agency is and figure out how much, or unless the city knows it, however you get the information that this amount of money went from Longmont residents to the general fund because of missing materials, right? Like, let's say it's $10,000 a year or whatever. Like, I feel like you could potentially be like, I'm requesting $10,000 to replace, and here's
Right.
the list of lost materials that we're going to replace with it or something. Like, maybe it's something like that you can do once a year.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But it brings more money. As the collection, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah,
Scraped in the barrel here, but.
Right.
Alright, any other comments from the board? Alright, to the next meeting, on June 16th, Jamie can't make it and John can't make it, is that?
No, just John,
Just John.
Jamie
No,
can make it tonight.
no, I think Jamie, she can't make the week before, is that what it is?
Yeah,
That's what it is,
so
okay.
basically, as I always do, a week before this meeting, I meet with Jamie to agenda plan. Of course, Nicole joined us, since she's chairing, but anyway, I have a conflict on the 16th. So we threw around some dates, but one of them didn't work for Jamie.
Is that, yeah.
So we came up with June 23rd, which would be the following week. And just wanted to see if that,
Yeah,
I
if,
will be here.
okay,
okay,
I can't zoom in because I will be camping.
that's
that's
fine.
okay.
So we need to make sure on the 23rd that there's at least 3 of us.
I can come.
You can come?
I can.
Okay. So then we will move the next month's meeting to the 23rd. And hopefully Katie can also make it so that we have, we'll have quorum without Katie, but
Right, and Jamie
it'd
should
be nice to have an extra, just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie should be able to make it, so if we can move that to the 23rd instead of the 16th.
Yeah. I mean, I did offer to have the meeting without me.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
yeah.
What would we do? What would we talk
That's what
about?
Jamie's like, I don't know that we could do the meeting
Yeah, that's
without
not
you."
really.
I'm like, I don't see why.
You do most of the reports, so.
We would just come up with a list of things for you to do.
Right,
So-
that's what happens when you get assignments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the person who's not here gets all those.